Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. We are in week 10 of the NFL season, and things are not looking good for the Washington Commanders. Quarterback Jayden Daniels is sidelined once again after a cringe-worthy left elbow injury last week against the Seattle Seahawks. He will not be on the field against Detroit. This is the third injury this season that has put his second season under a cloud. We have that and so much more to talk about at the Sports Roundtable. My guests are Wisdom Martin, morning anchor with WUSA TV, and author of Pass Interference, History of the Black Quarterback in the NFL, and Chris Murray, host of the Chris Murray Report. Guys, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me, as always.
Be here, man.
Absolutely. So first things first, Jayden Daniels not going to play against Detroit on Sunday. Did you see the injury, Wisdom?
Yeah. I saw it. I started crying when I saw it. That's how bad it was. It was tough because here's the thing. We know we love Jayden. He's an amazing football player. The game was over, pretty much over at that point, and it was really awkward. It was an awkward injury. It wasn't like it was a normal. I don't know if you can say a normal injury in football because it's contact sport, but it was awkward how he went down. The elbow popped out. So, and I get it because football is football. It's a contact sport. A lot of people ask him why was he in the game because the game was out of hand. I just look forward now because I don't know, Chris. What do you think? Do you put him back in if he gets healthy, say in 3 or 4 weeks? Because I don't think the season is going to go well at this point. I don't know if you bring him back. I don't know what the point would be to bring him back at this.
If they're not in contention, rest him. If they're not in
contention, just shut it down.
Because right now I cover a team in Philadelphia, and they look like they're on that trajectory to make a run to another Super Bowl appearance. But if he's not healthy, but you know what that injury reminded me of? I remember Joe Theismann against the Giants.
I mean, Joe Theismann, not Joe Biden, Joe Theismann.
But he said Joe Biden. Okay.
That's for our politics show.
We don't want to bring that up right now. This is
nah. But I watched that Monday night game and I saw Lawrence Taylor crying and whatnot. And I have never seen that in football. When I saw Jayden Daniels go down, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, man, you know, that reminded me of that because I remember watching that on Monday Night Football.
Yep.
And I was just, I was horrified. And people who know me, that I'm not, back in the day and even today, I'm from Baltimore and I'm never a fan of the Washington team. But the humanity sets in when you see guys because you got to throw all that fandom out. But you don't want to see a guy get hurt. You don't ever want to see a guy have a career-threatening injury like that. And I was horrified. When I saw Jayden Daniels go, I was like, "Oh my God!" And and the thing about it, I'm glad that it wasn't his throwing.
Exactly.
That's the only thing that we have to be grateful for is the fact that it wasn't his throwing because he is a dynamic quarterback. He is just a great quarterback. I think Washington has some bad luck with injuries and things of that nature, like a lot of teams around the league, and so. You feel bad for that because I always say I want Washington competing. I like the NFC East. I like when teams are healthy and ready to go. But if they're not going to be in contention, I hope they sit them and rest them for the rest of the season. If they are, if they somehow, and there's still a lot of time, anything can happen. But but the thing about it, they need to make sure that injury heals. I don't care if he wants to be out there on the field because he's a competitor. Right. And he's going to want to be back on the field, but make sure that injury heals because he has, like I said, the guy has too many years in front of him as a quarterback. He just does.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing about it. I think it was just, last week, his mother, because we always got to talk about Jayden Daniels' mother, because she's, I mean, she's almost look, she is as prominent as he is. Regina Jackson, Jayden Daniels' mother, was giving a whole lot of pushback to the RG3 2.0 situation,
Right.
where for those who need a refresher, RG3 was a Skins Golden Boy. This was before they were called the Commanders, and had a great season. And then that next year, ouch, knee injuries, and he was scrambling. And as much as we don't want to talk about this, wisdom, even RG3 was posting yesterday. He's soliciting prayers for Jayden Daniels.
Yeah. It is I would call it ironic that after the first year, Jayden is dealing with the same thing, that kind of the same thing. I'm talking about injury in general that RG3 dealt with, and because I witnessed the RG3 year, we all did, and then I was at before this year, I was at the last playoff game with RG3 against Seattle, where he was dragging his leg around, and Seattle won that game, and I was like, ugh. And then it just went off the rails there. I do think I see the similarities, and I see why people are concerned around here because of the bad experiences. Even when you go back to, you mentioned Joe Theismann and Alex Smith. I mean, he wasn't great and wasn't dynamic, but his head and leg injury was horrific too. So I can see how people are like, oh my gosh, not again. I think this is a better situation, in my opinion, because I really do think the organization is different. I really think Jayden Daniels is a different kind of guy, much different than RG3. Because if you ask anybody, RG3 was a me first guy, and Jayden Daniels is not. He is more of a leader. Guy. Yeah, he's more of a team guy, more of a leader, and he can perform. So as long as he's healthy, which like Chris said, you got to make sure that he's 100% when you roll back next year. I think he will be fine. People just have to, and I think that the fan nation is good with, what, this season we've lost 4 straight. We got the Lions coming in. We probably, I'm not into making predictions, but I'll just say that's going to be a tough game. You can't really afford to lose anymore because Philly's killing it right now. Yeah. And I know Dallas is on the, struggle bus week to week, but they still have a better record. So at this point, you got to take care of Jayden. Because you don't want to regress. Because if he gets hurt, then now you're kind of like regressing back to another in the danger zone. Because this guy galvanized the franchise. He's an exciting player. He's a leader. He's a fresh face. Everybody loves him.
Everybody loves him.
We all love him. So and I'm telling you, it's a much different than old number 10. But you got to take care of this guy, because his career, what he does in his career, that will change the trajectory of what happens with the coaches and what happens moving forward after this year. You're going to have down years in the NFL, because that's just the way it goes. But what will happen after this year is very, very important when you got a guy that's this young and this talented.
Let me ask you this. I'll ask you both this. I'll start with you, Chris, even though, this is what is going on with the Commanders with all of these injuries? Terry McLaurin, he did not practice yesterday. This, according to the Commanders website, he's been out because of that quad injury. We've got, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Bill, as they call him. Now, he practiced yesterday, but he had a tooth injury, a tooth injury. I don't know whether this is football or hockey, but
sometimes elbows can't get in them from face masks now.
but here's my question, and this is more of a broader question. This is less about the Commanders and just about the NFL this year, because you guys are experts / fans. I'm more just kind of foundational. The games are on while I'm cooking on Sunday, but I can't talk about the statistics and all of that. But Chris, has the game become more dangerous? Are we seeing more injuries? I was looking at some historic video some of the games when the guys were wearing the great big old football pads, where you just didn't know whether or not now these pads, they are smaller, certainly more advanced, but you've got these spaghetti noodle guys like a Jayden Daniels coming in, these and these are high performance athletes, but these guys are getting beat up out there, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, but it's all over the league. I mean,
right.
Cam Scatterboo for the Giants.
Oh yeah.
He had a crushing. I mean, you saw Jackson drive. I was in the stadium that day, and I was like, wow, because that kid. But guys are hitting harder. I mean, because the quarterbacks are running. You got Lamar Jacksons, Josh Allen's running around all over the place and all that, and everybody wants to get ahead of the quarterback. I'm still mad at Mike Shanahan to this day for allowing RG3 to play in that playoff game.
Yeah.
Where, even though his knees weren't there. I mean, coaches have to do a better job. I mean, but injury is always a part of the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
That's the hard part about it. You're going to get hurt. I mean, that injury could have happened in practice. That could have happened at any time. Although I do think that when your team was, is being blown out, there's a part where you got to take the starting quarterback out of the game because you don't want to risk any injury and all that. And I just, it kind of, like I said, I've seen my man Lamar Jackson get hurt this year
with the Ravens. Yeah, and nobody could, he was born with catfish grease on him. You cannot catch that guy. That's a little down south Mississippi for you.
I was gonna say it's not just catfish grease, it's southern catfish.
Southern catfish grease.
Southern, right out of the pond catfish grease. Yeah, that's how bad Lamar Jackson is.
No, that's the catfish grease that they're saving on the stove in the tin can.
Right. You gotta use it again. It's so good. It's got flavor in it. That's Lamar Jackson. You gotta save it. He got flavor.
Yeah.
But
guys get hurt. I mean, that's the game. I mean, sometimes, there were years in the NFL, like I know historically, 1965, the Baltimore Colts lost Johnny Unitas, then they lost their backup quarterback, and then they had to play, then they pressed a running back named Tom Maddie in the service, and he became, he was the third. That in some years it happens like that. Some years guys get. I still remember the body bag game in Philadelphia when the Redskins and the Eagles played in Philly, and that was them days when Reggie White, when guys just went. That game came down to the third and fourth string quarterback for Washington. I
do remember that. But let me ask you this, Wisdom, because this is definitely your wheelhouse. I mean, look, Geno Smith got banged up last night in that game against Denver. But when you look at black quarterbacks in 2025, how would you characterize just where they are and how far they've come?
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's tremendous because we were talking about Lamar Jackson here and how, like to me, Lamar Jackson is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't care if he hadn't won a Super Bowl because a lot of quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls, don't even get to Super Bowls. Lamar Jackson, and he should have won MVP last year,
even with the diamond grill. Even with a diamond grill, and I think that may be part of the issue with some folks, but I digress.
The progress that we have made, the black quarterback has made from the start of the NFL back in the 50s to now has been tremendous. Because you remember, not that long ago, we could even sit on the bench as a black quarterback, and it doesn't matter what you did in college, how good you were in college, and how successful you were. You a lot of times you did not get that opportunity. That slowly started to change in the late 90s and then evolved, and then we started getting people getting drafted. Like back in the day, Patrick Mahomes, maybe he would have gotten drafted. Russell Wilson would not have been drafted at all, even though he was drafted late when he did get picked. Lamar Even when Lamar did get drafted, remember, Bill Polian for the Colts was like, who was
Wide
working
receiver.
for ESPN at the time, was like, oh, he should switch positions. He's gonna be a great receiver or running back or whatever he said.
Right.
It was
I
something
do
like that.
remember that.
Yeah, he
Right.
was talking about that during the draft, and that's why when he finally got the starting job, Coach Harbaugh would come in after he was performing so well and dominating the league. Coach Harbaugh would have at his press conference would say, "Hey, not bad for a running back, huh?" That's what he was talking about. So that's
Right.
how far
Right.
we've come. Even now to this day, though, I listen to the way people talk about Lamar and say, "Oh, well, he's good and he's great, but he runs too much." Well, Josh Allen runs, and so that shouldn't
Yes,
even
he
be an
does.
issue. Joe Burrow does not run, and Joe Burrow is always hurt. Always hurt. Joe Burrow's been out with a knee, a wrist, a finger, his back, and he's out right now. So Joe Burrow stays hurt, and he's not nearly as mobile as Lamar Jackson. And I get it, but we've come a long way with
Winston,
these black
hold
quarterbacks.
that thought. I've got
Okay.
to take a break. Don't forget what you're saying. I'll let you continue on the other side. We're going to continue with our sports roundtable in just a bit, but don't forget, you can hear this and every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR-FM. This conversation continues on Sirius XM, channel 141 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation at the Sports Roundtable with Chris Murray, host of the Chris Murray Report, and Wisdom Martin, morning anchor with WUSA TV and author of Pass Interference, History of the Black Quarterback in the NFL. Wisdom, continue your point.
Well, I was just talking about how far we've advanced with the black quarterbacks from the time the NFL started. I was talking about the ability to be mobile and run is actually an attribute, but some people see it as a negative because when Lamar does it, it's what if? But when Josh Allen does it, it's never brought up, even though quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, I was just talking about Joe Burrow, who is good, but he stays hurt. Joe Burrow's been out with knee, wrist, finger, back, and he's out right now. And he's not really a scrambling running quarterback like Lamar. And Lamar can throw the ball, make no mistake about it, because those yards don't lie. The touchdown passes don't lie. That's just an added dimension. Same thing with Jayden when he was healthy. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. Now, back in the day, Jalen Hurts probably would not have even been drafted.
Right.
I'm talking about back in the 80s and then the early 90s.
Right.
He probably wouldn't have even been drafted. Now, here he is, been to the Super Bowl once and won one. And then we've got people, and he was a Super Bowl MVP, by the way. And people are still like, oh, well, he's not that good. How can you be a Super Bowl MVP and winning
not
all
be
the
good?
time?
I hear it in Philly. Okay,
Yeah.
I am in that press corps up there, and they have been. I mean, there's only been two reporters in the city of Philadelphia. My friend Don Hunt and myself. We kept telling people this guy is going to be he's a coach's son. He's a smart kid. He had to play under different systems throughout his entire career. And this guy, every time that city, downs him, he comes up. He's thrown 7 touchdown passes in his last 2 games. And and it's gotten to the point to where he's opened up Philly's off. The Eagles had their first 100-yard rusher since the NFC Championship game against the Commanders, and it was just one of those things. They kept saying he can't throw the deep ball. I mean, they always have this thing. I don't know why. And maybe you wrote a book about it. I've covered it. And maybe I'm a bit sent because I wrote a chapter in a book that I wrote on the black quarterback, and it's just that they would always come out and say, "Well, he can't read defenses." It's always you can't read defenses and all that. They never said that about Josh Allen or any white quarterback coming out. It's always assumed, and it's the same old. It's in life in general. But if they see a black face, somehow it's always you can't do it. It's always presumed that you're not qualified or that you can't play that position.
Yeah, and excuses about your success.
Right.
Well, this, well, that. And I'm like, well, just look at the results. Look at Lamar Jackson's numbers. I don't know how you can look at those numbers and tonight look at the two MVPs. I mean, and then people are like, well, he hasn't been to the Super Bowl. I was watching ESPN. I think it was not this past season, the previous season.
Right.
After he had won I think he had won the second at that point. And they were talking about, well, Joe Burrow's better than he is because he had been to a Super Bowl. But I'm like, but he lost a Super Bowl. And Lamar's got 2 MVPs. So what are we talking about here? And his stats are off the charts better than Joe Burrow. And again, I'm not dissing Joe Burrow's ability because he's good too, but he's not Lamar Jackson. So for them to sit there on ESPN and argue that Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson is ridiculous. Joe Flacco is up there winning right now. I mean, in Cincinnati, doing well because the team is loaded on offense with 2 outstanding receivers. So again, Joe Burrow is who he is, but he stays hurt. He's hurt all the time.
Yep.
And you got Lamar Jackson winning MVPs and winning all the time, and the numbers don't lie. So I'm with you, Chris. It goes back to the very beginning where the black quarterback. There's excuses for this, excuses for that. He runs too much. The way he looks, he can't lead. He's not the face of the franchise. Here's what we want. That is slowly starting to change. But now I still kind of hear it when I listen to the game and watch the pregame shows. I'm like, oh, we still doing that old thing, huh? Where we do these subtle digs at Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson and some of the other black quarterbacks in the NFL. So it's.
So let me ask you this, and this is a Commanders thing because, it was announced that the offensive coordinator for the Commanders is coming out of the booth. No, defensive coordinator. Joe Witt. Sorry about thank you. Joe Witt is coming out of the booth and down onto the field. In interviews just yesterday, they were saying this just kind of happened and that it was the players who made that suggestion. Even with the team being beat up the way it is right now, Wisdom, this is one of those outside observer things. What difference might that make?
You know what? Honestly, I like these coaches and I like this team. I don't know, with all of these injuries,
right? I
don't know if it's going to make a difference because you're talking about you lost Dietrich Wise, who was huge early on, Dorrance Armstrong, who was huge. This past week, Trey Amos, the cornerback, got hurt. Will Harris, I don't know what the injury is, but he was either a defensive back or safety. He got hurt. And then it's just a lot of injuries to overcome, and on both sides of the ball. But defensively, when you were struggling already, and then you keep getting injuries on a defense that statistically was not that has progressively not gotten better. I don't know. I'm hoping for him. I'm pulling for him because if things continue the way they are, it might be a dire ending for Joe Witt at the end of the season. Unfortunately, I mean, again, I like this team, but I don't know. You can go to the owners or whoever's making the decisions out there and say, "Look, I had a lot of injuries," but then they're going to say, "Well, that's tough."
You gotta make lemonade out of lemons and stuff.
Exactly.
They're talking about the same thing in Baltimore with Zach Orr. I mean, that defense. I mean, I watched that defense get overrun this year.
Yeah.
And you in this situation, you're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. Both teams, Baltimore and Washington, and you can't see your teams get run over,
right?
Regardless of injuries. And a lot of times, coaches will come out of the press box, maybe just to kind of be with their team and maybe try to see what their guys are seeing on the field. Because a lot of defensive coordinators or offense, they'll sit up, and sometimes it's better to look up, from off the ground. You can kind of see, okay, they're in this formation or that formation, then we got to attack it with something else. I mean, it may be a psychological thing because some coaches just want to be there with their guys. I mean, I don't know if being in the press box is more advantageous than to be on the field. I mean, because sometimes on the sideline you can't see certain things.
Right.
And that's what I was thinking. But maybe again, it could be psychological. It could be, depending on what his relationship is with the defense, they may say, hey, look, we want to see you down here, with us. Who knows? I do want to move on to some more difficult news. And this is the thing that I think everyone has been talking about for the past day or so. Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Nealon dies in an apparent suicide. My goodness, Chris, this is not just a football story. This is certainly a news story. This is a mental health story. There are so many intersecting issues here.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not that was, could it have been early CTE? I don't know. I mean, but there's a lot of things that could have been going on in this guy's life. He's in a high pressure profession. You don't know if you're going to be there from one day to the next. Kind of like journalism.
Yeah.
To a certain,
Oh yeah.
you don't.
Absolutely.
I mean, and the thing is, you don't know. Only in recent times we have taken mental health issues of these athletes seriously, and so we don't know whether or not the guy was in a state of depression, because even though you may be playing at that high level, the pressure of just to stay there and whatnot, which is why they give you pensions after 5 years if you last that long. And it's tragic, and it's almost like what's going on. It's important that we talk about taking care of ourselves physically and everything, but mental health is as important as your physical health, because if your mind is sick, you can't function. And I mean, and it's like not the first time. There are a lot of guys who played in this profession. I don't know. Like I say, some guys have killed themselves because of early onset CTE or something like that. We don't know what's going on in this situation. So anytime a player dies prematurely in any sport, I still remember the deaths of Len Bias and Hank Gathers and all those guys. It's hard to fathom that happening with somebody so young.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what Chris said especially about the mental health component, because we just recently, I think it was like during the pandemic, we started talking about, well, we need to check on people and see how they're doing mentally. And it doesn't matter how famous you are, whether you're a big, strong athlete or no matter who you are. Mental health is a serious thing. Like Chris said, that is something that needs to be dealt with, not just the physical part of life. And I will say I'm glad that during the pandemic it started to shift toward an arena where we are able to say this is an issue. We and men especially, because we don't like to go to the doctor. We're big, strong, tough. We got to take care of everything. We don't need no help because
I'm going.
I'm
going.
Right. We're men. We don't need anything. Well, yes, we do. We're all human beings. We all need to check in. We all need to take care of ourselves. We all need to have a support group, whether it's another group of men or other family members, and just to be around each other. And it doesn't have to be long. Like a lot of my friends out, just hey, or text, or hey, how you doing, or a short phone call, whatever it is. I'm not saying we're mental health experts, but I'm saying that's a component of it as well. Support, getting some mental health help if you need it. So that's really important. And when I heard about this, it was very sad and tragic to me, because that's the first thing that came to my mind as well. We don't know all the circumstances around it, but right now that is what they're talking about. There was a mental health component to this, and it makes me sad. Anytime a young man, he was really young, a young man,
he's like 24 years old.
Right, yeah. A young man lost his life and this was a contributing factor. So,
well, one of the things when you look at a lot of the reporting was that his girlfriend was saying that he was having suicidal ideations, and the interesting thing, to your point, Wisdom, pandemic notwithstanding, is that we have seen the NFL, as well as other professional sports, but particularly, the NFL, individual players have done PSAs. They have had sit down, extended conversations about mental health, and not the CTE part. That's a separate piece. That's obviously that's an injury piece, but this I guess you could say this new wave of players who are not afraid to talk about the stigma
Mm-hmm.
and kind of trying to eliminate the stigma around mental health. And I guarantee you that the loss of Marshawn Nealon is going to continue to make this an issue. It is just unfortunate that it has had to come back into the spotlight with the loss of this young man. I did want to move on to some of the another news issue, and this just coming up today. This again, a local issue, but an NFL issue. Certainly, Wisdom, this is something that both you and I have covered, where there was today a guilty plea by Corey Klingman. She was the young woman who was accused in the death of Minnesota Vikings rookie Kyrie Jackson and his friends Isaiah Hazel and Anthony Litton. This thing happened in July of last year, and all of us in journalism in the DMV, we've been waiting to find out what would happen with this.
Right. I'm glad that for the family that there is a sense of closure here.
Yeah.
Because again, this is a similar situation to what we were talking about. A young man in the prime of his life, getting ready to live out his dream on the football field, and then all of a sudden, just like that, it's gone. So now the family is affected. Everybody connected to him is affected. It was tragic. It was horrible. I remember hearing about it, and I was like, wow, this is awful for a number of different reasons.
Right.
And I know the family, through the legal system, will eventually get the closure that they need from that perspective. But I pray for them, because I can't imagine losing a loved one in this way. Right. At a young age like that, no matter whether he was a professional football player or just in general, because to die in a horrific crash like that, it's, I hate to keep saying the word sad, but it's sad and tragic. So I pray that family gets is able to move forward, because you'll never have closure, the complete closure, after losing a young loved one like that. But I just pray and hope they're able to move forward after this, and remember all the good things that he was able to bring to their life.
Yeah,
absolutely. I would agree with that. It's just I don't like it. It's a funny thing. You might go to get a drink at a bar, and you hear that, and you hear music in the background. Someone's talking about, yeah, I'm gonna kill this and this, that. I can't stand that, because there's too many people out here, young people, and I travel between 3 metropolitan areas, Baltimore, Philly, and Washington, and every time somebody gets killed or gets hurt, it's just too much to bear. It really is. And especially when a kid who's just getting his life together, playing the sport that he loves, that's, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, Chris, because Corey Klingman was driving drunk, at the time, and that brings up yet another issue, just outside of the sports piece, where the drunk driving issue continues to be problematic in society, and people just really kind of need to be aware. Not to mention, this was a young woman. This was also someone who was a friend of Kyrie Jackson. So it makes it tragic all around. And even back to the sports issue, the thing I think, Wisdom, that is really heartbreaking is that Jackson never played it down for the Vikings.
Right. It is. And I believe, I think didn't he just sign his contract or something?
He had just signed.
Like
he had just signed. I mean, what? Yeah. Maybe he had gone to. This happened in July.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe he had gone to camp or something like that, but the ink wasn't dry.
Yeah. And like Chris said, when you're talking about bars and all and the drinking that goes on, you never know, because I don't drink alcohol at all. I do hang out with my friends. Like, we'll go out to dinner, and if there's a bar, we can sit at a bar. I'm not bothered by it, and I'm not trying to tell them what to do. They can drink. I just don't drink, so that's not an issue for me. But it doesn't matter, because you don't know what the other people on the road are doing.
That's
So I could be
true.
minding my own business and then have an issue with someone else. So it speaks to a bigger issue in this country when you're talking about drinking and driving, and the consequences of that. And unfortunately, he's going to be part of the story when you talk about a young man. He was involved in a drinking and driving accident. So it's horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible.
I do want to get back to again some of the local stuff, because I am particularly bothered about this Jayden Daniels Dan Quinn thing, because as you
Mhm.
probably heard earlier this week, when Dan Quinn said he missed it, those were his words about whether or not to allow Jayden Daniels to stay in. And coaches are not perfect, but look, even old, cooking in the kitchen, game on in the living room, Harold Fisher knows
Catfish, right?
maybe it's time for you to take this guy out of the game.
Yeah.
How do you miss something like that, Wisdom?
Hey man, look, I'm with you for all of us. And the thing is, hindsight is 2020. If he doesn't have that freak accident, whereas he falls and his elbow pops out, we're not even having this conversation. It was a freak accident, I get it, and I'm not gonna beat Dan Quinn up too bad, not too bad, but you are playing with your future here. So he probably should have been out of the game, because it's just not going well at that point, and you're losing traction. But hey, what are you gonna do now? I mean, now you gotta figure it out and move forward. This is what we tell our kids, right? You make a mistake, now you gotta figure out how to move forward with it, and now you gotta figure it out fast, because Detroit's coming to town.
And Detroit is hungry for a Super Bowl. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
But to your point, Wisdom, I gotta say though, there's always this thing where, and I know 100 years ago when I played Little League, how it is to stand in a 47. I remember I was on one team that got smoked. Okay,
Uh-huh.
that's hard to play through. I don't want to be on the field at that point, but it's about character.
Yes.
You got. Okay, well, you're down in the game, and you got to show that you don't want to give up, that you're
Hmm.
still coaching, that you're still trying to learn, but at the risk of losing your starting quarterback forever, I don't get him off the field.
Yeah.
Get him off the field. You lost. Face
Right.
it, you lost
Throw
today.
in the
Get him,
towel.
yeah, throw in the towel. Come back next week and just come back. But I wouldn't have I would not have played him. I wouldn't. I would say, man, nice effort, man. We'll get him next time. We'll watch
Hmm.
the film and go through this, and we move on. Because that happens. It's football.
Yeah.
We got a whole bunch of games left. We need you on that field.
Yeah.
Okay, but Dan Quinn didn't think that way.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but he didn't think that way. He wasn't thinking. So
Oh my goodness. Speaking of not thinking, I had completely forgotten about this. The Antonio Brown saga
Oh, boy.
continues. The former NFL player will be back in Miami from New Jersey. He's not contesting his extradition to Florida on an attempted murder charge. Chris, what's going on with Antonio Brown?
the man has had mental health issues
Mm.
for years. This was a guy who I don't know if he was imitating a scene from the movie Slapshot, where he just took his clothes off in Tampa
Mhm.
Bay, walked off the field, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make sport of that in the sense that that's because it's tragedy. He obviously has mental health issues,
Yeah.
but but you got to get treated though. You got to
Mhm.
go through therapy.
Right.
You've got to get treated, and when you don't get treated for it, things happen. And my thing at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of people who are out here doing bad things, are because of untreated trauma in some
Right.
ways, and they're taking it out on somebody else, and that's the only thing that when we look at Antonio Brown, I the first thing that most people say, man, pray for that man.
Hmm.
Just you got to pray for the guy, if nothing else, because it's hard to watch. It's
Yeah.
hard to watch that whole thing, and maybe if he does get jail time and everything, maybe I hate for anyone to go through that,
Yeah.
but maybe that's the spot where you have to deal with. No, I don't like it. I just don't like anybody going to jail. But just,
Yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
one of the greatest.
yeah.
For a
You
short
know-
time, for a time period, yeah. When he was with the Steelers, he was killing it. But then
Yeah.
again, like Chris said, I don't know what happened mentally. He started doing these different things, and he just kept offending and kept doing these things, and then taking your clothes off and leaving Tampa, and then doing all these other things. So you're like, something is going on here, because
Right.
this is not normal behavior. I don't know who's in his corner. I don't know what his family situation is
Yeah.
like. So
That's a good point. That's such a good point.
yeah. And like Chris said, I just hope he at some point he gets some help from somewhere, and somebody intervenes on his behalf,
Right.
and helps him some kind of way, because clearly, without being doctors up here, something is just not adding up, because he's a repeat offender. It's not just one thing. It was several incidents in Pittsburgh, and then a couple of incidents in Tampa, and then even after Tampa there were some incidents, and now so I just hope that somebody gets involved in his life and can help him somehow.
I like what you said about that, about who's in your corner,
Right.
because obviously, look, an attempted murder charge is serious.
Very serious.
That's very serious business. That is definitely nothing to joke about. But I will say that no matter what happens legally, it is our hope that there is somebody who is level-headed that he listens to.
Right.
An auntie, an uncle, a friend who can
Anybody at this point
says that you need to talk to somebody. Blah blah blah. Look, finally, Chris, Philadelphia. Who are they playing this weekend?
Green Bay. I'm playing Green Bay at Monday Night Football.
Okay, that's a wash. We know who's going to win that. No,
What?
I said that's a wash. We know who's going to win that one.
Yeah.
I take it you're sitting with Philadelphia on that one.
I think Philadelphia wins that game, but like I said, Jordan Love can still play the game, and that's the thing. I mean, that it's a tough one, but it's hard to win at Lambeau for anybody.
Yeah.
But I think the Eagles win that game.
And what about Baltimore?
The Ravens will win. I mean, now
who are they playing? Help me out.
The Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, and it's a situation where the Ravens just made a major move at edge rusher position for Draymond Jones from the Tennessee Titans. This every game down the stretch here for the Ravens is a must win.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat skeptical about it because they still have some issues on the offensive line that I worry about, and I think that but I think Lamar is determined enough to win. That's the only.
He's the X
Ravens'
factor.
big
Yeah.
hope. He's the X factor. He's the only hope.
Yeah.
And so Wisdom, I'll let you have the final word with the Commanders and Detroit. Is there a prediction? not win or lose, but but by how much? I don't know.
Look, I don't know I'm not gonna give you a prediction. I just hope they get through the game without any more injuries. If they get any more injuries, they might call the three of us and have us come work out with them and get out there. I mean, I might have half a play left in me in my whole life. A half a play. Not
half a play.
A half a play. And Chris and Harold, y'all can come out there and
my
do it
shoulder pads and my pants can stay on. That's the thing. I hope.
Yeah, right. Yeah, look.
That's what I hope.
Wisdom, you said half a play. For me, it'll be half a plate because I will be sitting and watching the game.
Yeah, right. And the tricky part, you know what? Detroit's again really good, so that's going to be a problem. I'll just say that's going to be a problem for the Commanders. But even trickier than that is going to Spain next week. because you look at the Dolphins and how horrible they've been, right? But when you go overseas and you're playing at our time is like 8 o'clock is it 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning?
Exactly.
So at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're overseas against a bad team that you're supposed to win. Ooh.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I look, it's not too bad to wake up and watch football. You just have to, you may have to do that bedside Baptist and check Sunday service on YouTube. Look, I know. Hush. Look, I'm out of here, guys. I'm out of time. Wisdom Martin, Chris Murray, thank you both so very much. It was great talking to you guys, and we'll talk soon.
All right, good to talk to you, fellas. Thank you.
All right,
I appreciate it.
That is the Daily Drum for this Friday, November 7th. For News Director Renee Nash, I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.